Coming to you from UBN Studios in Burbank, California. You're listening to the Unsugarcoated podcast with your host, Aalia.
Hello, 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 my Unsugarcoated with Aalia audience. I am so happy to be here today with you. Thank you for coming back to me. We are going to keep it going with some more amazing, interesting people. You know, it's amazing. This is probably one of my favorite parts of this is going out and finding interesting people to come on here and have these conversations with me. And it is not about how many, you know, how famous or whatnot. I mean, we definitely get our celebrities, but we get our rising stars. We get our, you know, it's important that there's a mix for me, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Today's episode is brought to you by House of Kings Card Club. They are a social club bringing Texas Hold'em back to Texas. Their main purpose is to give El Paso a legal and safe poker room that strives to uphold the integrity of the game and provides the best customer service to its members. For more information on our wonderful sponsors, please go to houseofkingscardclubep.com. Well, I got something for you guys, right? I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. Hey, yo, I'm just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I am not throwing away my shot. Now, the good news is, you guys, I am not giving up my day job to become a rapper. Because I think we would know based on how I rap, I'm not that great at it. However, I am passionate. And, you know, the thing is, I'm an 80s kid. Rapping and poetry, lyrical rhyming, everything, it's an experience for me as an artist. And I just love that it gives us the ability to express ourselves. And the reality is that artists, creatives, athletes, and entertainers, you know, we all have something to say too. So many people take it as just entertainment, and they say, shut up with your thoughts, shut up with your, you know, your desires for humanity, and just entertain us. But that's kind of not fair, because we offer a lot more than that. And, you know, I don't know if anybody else has checked out, or checked out some of the amazing documentaries that are out there. For any of you on still in COVID Netflix on repeat, there's just so many amazing documentaries I've seen over COVID. One of them has been put out by the comedian Chelsea Handler. She executive produced a great documentary called Hello Privilege. It's me, Chelsea. And it was an experience for her that caused her to realize that we need to talk to people who are white and stop asking black people to solve our problems. So when it came to this conversation that I'm actually about to have on racism, I figured who better to bring on than this fella right here. We're going to bring him on right now. Let's get that going. Recently featured in Buzz Music for his debut single release, Flowers. That young lad, also known as Till, is an East Coast rapper and songwriter from New Jersey. Born in 1991, Till eventually left his home right outside New York City and headed to LA in 2014. As a kid, music always had a presence in Till's daily life, its influence being a major reason he writes and raps. A rising artist focused on lyrics and wordplay, Till brings excitement and old school vibes to the new school, resulting in a unique yet familiar sound. Everybody, you gotta give him a warm welcome, That Young Lad.
Hello.
Hello, 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 my friend. How are you?
Going?
So for the audience, where are you speaking to me from today?
I am speaking to you from my lovely apartment in North Hollywood, California.
And by lovely, I do see lovely. I see the background.
Oh, yes.
Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with me and have this conversation. You recently dropped an album and released Flowers, and I've been listening to it. By the way, we're gonna get into that. But before we do, and I know I kind of through this crazy intro, people are like, wait, what the heck are you guys going to be talking about? But one of the reasons I reached out to you is because you are so passionate on what you talk about. You keep it real, you keep it authentic. And I think that when we, like I said in the intro, when we talk about some things, we need to have the conversations with people in our communities, right? So please give our audience an idea of who you are and actually what you represent in society so that, they know.
Right on. Yeah, appreciate having me on. My name is That Young Lad, and I guess, look, I represent a lot of different things. I try to touch on a lot of different topics, ideas. But some of the main things is really just belief in oneself, like empowering of oneself and realizing that it's kind of up to you in the end to empower yourself, but also equality and equity too are like things that I personally try to stand for in my music. I've just been writing, whether it's about poverty or children being taken away from their families for crossing a border. I try to touch on everything. So I try to represent, whether you want to say the underdog or the folks who don't get the recognition that they deserve. That's I guess who I try to represent.
Yeah, I mean, and I love that because I kind of feel, don't you, and I got to say this is like the whole American idea. I don't really feel one thing, right? I don't even know how to explain it, but you're a person like me, like, a little bit different. I say this because when, and this is just for the audience's full disclosure, people, when I say white, like if anyone knows my background, I have a very mixed background. So there's definitely white, like American Confederate side, blonde hair, blue eyes, my grandfather, German, Heiss was my mother's maiden name. And then there's like my dad, who's the immigrant off the boat, from another country, and the brown. And so when I say that, like, people will say to me, well, you're white. And I'm like, I understand that. But to white people, the blonde hair, blue eyed ones, I'm not white. I've never been mistaken for a white person, yet I am Caucasian by ethnicity. And at the same token, like, I see that flipped. My younger daughter, she's blonde hair, blue eyes, but she's actually Arab. And so people have this they see her and don't know. But going back to your background. Let's talk about your background. You're like Italian, right?
Yeah, so I'm a bunch of different things. I'm like basically half Italian, a little bit of French in there, a little bit of Irish, German, and then what else? I think that's mostly it. Maybe like I think I did one of those DNA tests. I think I was like 10% English.
Yeah.
So a little something that explains the T.
But we're 100% human, and that's the part we should be focusing on. But for some reason, we're still so stuck on the like, hey, I'm like 2% French. I'm gonna say,
Oh, I forgot the 8% of that too, and it's like, but yeah, that's so a little bit of a mutt, I guess, as they say.
But when people look at you, they see a white guy, right? And there's a reason why we have to establish this. Like, you've lived life as a white man, and so as a result of that, it's share with us how your experience is, because rapping is quite unique. And yeah, we have Eminem, but I feel that for white men, just to be candid, it's not really targeting racism, but just like you got, a white guy trying to be a rapper, people don't often they don't take it as seriously, right?
That's what it seems like, and it's funny because if I ever do an open mic or tell somebody, hey, I can rap or I do rap, usually it's met with an insane amount of skepticism or what have you, maybe a little bit of doubt. Which is fine. I mean, that's fine by me. But it's really then once I start kind of opening my mouth that it's like, you get the jaw drops or the, oh crap, I didn't expect your voice to be like that.
Right.
But it's funny because as, very clearly, I'm a white male in America. I always have been. And, a lot of what I talk about though is like from my experience seeing things, a lot of times in my music, I will openly question like, is it only white people who are seeing it like this? Or is it people who can't see it like this because they're white or because they're not from a poorer area or a less fortunate area or something like that? So, things like that, almost like even my song Land of the Lost, I kind of poke fun at this idea of being blind to something and kind of just being like, well, I'm white. Which is just something I basically notice a lot of white people in this country doing.
Yeah, and as white people, we need to talk about that because I get frustrated quite often when I'm like, no, racism is real. And they're like, okay, or we hear, are you guys going to cry? I mean, are we going to cry about slavery forever? And I'm like, okay, but here's the problem. We never really addressed it in the first place, Yeah. I think fundamentally that's an issue. We've never really truly addressed racism in this country, and that's why it's so inbred. And I'm like you. So, but, and that you're going to have to give us a little taste of your flow, right?
Yeah.
Because I already, by the way, I was supposed to do my intro way better, but I think the nerves got me because I was like, we're in the car. I'm like, I am not giving away I was on beat and everything. And then I get on. And then I was like, oh, shit. Right away, I heard it in my head. I'm like, oh, man, I just messed up. But I was, and it's funny because when you said even earlier, it doesn't bother you. I think that's admirable and important because, yeah, if you're going to rise to the occasion, do anything that you really want in life, you need to not be bothered by the opinions of other. And you need to know that a little bit of a challenge is okay, right? But with the influence that you have, the influence on your music, you are influenced by many things. I liked hearing about the story, or reading about it rather, but I read about what inspired you to write Flowers.
Oh yeah.
Tell my audience, because they don't know what I read. You got to tell it.
Of course. Yeah, I'd love to dive into it. So it came from such a, I don't want to say a funny place, but for I guess the mood of the song, it was a really interesting place where the lyrics came from. So everybody is well aware that unfortunately earlier this year, Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and a number of other passengers obviously passed away in the tragic helicopter crash. As somebody who is a lifelong basketball fan, almost, I don't want to say not a Kobe fan. I think I was more of a Kobe fan than I realized. It was just, one of those athletes that was always around as I was growing up.
Right.
And then living in LA, kind of being around it, it really, really greatly impacted me. It was like kind of one of those oddly enough celebrity deaths where it's like, you're like, should it even be affecting me this greatly?
Right.
And, of course, the Lakers took about a week off, maybe 2 weeks off from playing any basketball. I have a good friend out here who was like, dude, tickets are going to be expensive. Let's go to LA Live. Let's just go get a beer, be around the city, be there for this first game back. It's going to be a big deal. There's zero chance we regret it. And we went down, did our thing, saw all the flowers, saw all the murals, the this, the that. I think Keith's Urban, we went to some restaurant there, got some beers, ended up basically crying all night watching the game. The Lakers lost, but it didn't really freaking matter.
I remember.
And nobody gave a damn. I think they played the Blazers. I forget though. And we're like, I'm looking over. I've very rarely cried. This is like a lifelong friend who has moved out to LA, right? And I'm like looking at him like, oh man, Tom's crying. I'm crying. We're all bawling. All right. People are grabbing each other who have never met. You know what I mean? Like all that stuff. It was unbelievably emotional, and it was really that led me to write Flowers, because it got me thinking of all the flowers and all the things that people were doing for Kobe after he died. It inevitably led me to wonder. And I think this is something everybody's thought about. I just think it's whether you want to admit it or not. What happens when I die?
Right.
God forbid I die, next year. Oh my God. Or hopefully, everybody wants to die old and gray, of course. But God forbid something happens or this or that. It kind of put me in that mindset of, what if I died tragically? What would be the fallout? And it's funny because it was such a beautiful thing that actually led me to this place of, once I moved past the beauty, I got into the, oh man, like it hit me one night. I was like, oh, if X, Y, and Z showed up, I would be, if heaven is real, I would be looking down like smiting, like just being like, I'm haunting you, fuck you, what are you doing here, right?
Right.
And then it really got me into thinking about that. And that's essentially where the lyrics for Flowers came from, was going from that positive place to the, well, who would be at my funeral, wake, what have you?
Absolutely.
Why would I? Yeah. So,
right. Yeah, because then, and if you're coming out then, you should definitely come out before. What's your favorite part of Flowers? And drop it for us if you don't mind.
Man. Oh, God, it's so hard.
Which I know, as an artist, as a writer myself, I'm like, go ahead, pick your favorite part.
I think my favorite part, I think the part that's most important, and I think it's most important because it's telling the audience and these people who I'm talking to, about 20 plus people I'm talking to personally in this song, that I'm comfortable with it. So, what is it? It's like, thinking about how you miss me. I hate to tell you, but you kind of miss me. Not when I died, but when you changed. Years had passed. You had time to hit me, right? So I'm really saying, like, you had a chance. Like, I had laid my ball in your court multiple times. I had dribbled, I had passed, whatever you want to, whatever, metaphor you want to draw. I had reached out so many times. I had tried to build or refix this relationship. I didn't give up on this years ago. I came to peace with it years ago. So I'm letting you know, like, I might be dead now, but this has been dead.
Right.
And maybe you're just finding out about it.
Right.
But that's probably my favorite part.
When we talk about Kobe, it was very you know, when you going back to when you talk about his influence, and I kind of mentioned it in the beginning. I mean, I think that was one of the most profound things about losing someone like Kobe. You recognize that, okay, this was a guy who just played basketball, but he impacted the world. And I think that's largely because of the man he presented himself to be. He was respectful. He was caring. He loved his daughters. He was, you know, a good father. He was a man who messed up, but still,
For sure.
you know, he showed us that you can recover from certain things. I mean, he gave a lot of people hope, right? And when we look at the environment right now, you know, I know you're a very smart guy. You think big and you think deep. So we have this time frame where we know how powerful these individuals are in our society and the amount of weight that they carry. And yet you have this other segment of the population that's like, okay, well, sit down, shut up. We don't want to hear your BLM. We don't want you taking knees. We don't want you, and you know, where I get it, that I know some people might not appreciate when I say that. I love sports. Let me tell you, my kids tell me to keep it down when football's on. Okay. That's how much I love football. They're like, mom, I'm like,
The first quarter.
okay. And I'm a Niner fan, so I can't even lie. It's been rough.
Ooh.
My husband's a Dallas fan. I mean, I was raised with it, so it's like it's a family, it's a tradition. I can't even if I wanted to give them up, I couldn't. Like that's how it goes, okay? And so my passion, basketball. I love the intensity. I loved seeing the Lakers. Okay, wait, we got to give the Lakers. They won,
big
you know.
shouts.
Bravo. We're so proud of them, especially with all this COVID stuff, you know, to come out and just take it back, bring it back to LA. Kobe smiling down. Going to how people can often dismiss the messages, you know, people saying, oh, we're not going to watch basketball. We're not going to watch the sports. As an artist and a creative, tell me, what are your thoughts on that?
I think those people haven't been paying attention to the history of sports, and I would say that those people are selectively viewing the history that they want to, very intentionally. I think that if you look back all the way to Hitler and the very impactful moments that happened around the Olympics involving him, I mean, people say sports aren't politics, but wasn't it poor people who were fighting in the Colosseum in Rome?
Right.
For the politicians.
Well, it was slaves. It was slaves, actually. Yeah.
Excuse me. Yes. For the politicians.
Right.
Like, who was watching? You know what I mean? For the entertainment. And I think that those people, I understand also, I am empathetic in the sense of, hey, you want to release or you want to let go.
Exactly. Yes.
I want to watch Saturday Night Live. I don't always want to see Alec Baldwin as Trump. I get it. But at the same time, first off, it's hysterical. But at the same time, you haven't paid attention to the history of sports. I mean, even when it comes to, you know, whether it's, what was it? The day, I got this, hold on. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, I believe it was the Sixers Celtics who met together, like Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, as two iconic, two far-stretching, far-reaching people in the basketball community, not only in American history, came together and said, are we going to play right now? Like, this man was just assassinated and everything he stood for. They ultimately decided to play. But I just think those people haven't paid attention. And same thing for movies, same thing for music. My opinion to those people would just be to, you know, find, I don't know, everything in this life is political. I hate it when everybody always says, why do you have to make it political? It's like, you're probably just lucky to be able to say that.
Right.
For some people, you know, the food that they are able to afford for their family is political.
Right.
But you might not view that food shopping as political.
Right.
Because you might be fortunate enough to do that. I'm lucky if I go to the store, I don't have to, you know, I still have kept my job through COVID. Sure, I'm conscious of what I'm buying. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that would be my long-winded response.
Well, I mean, especially because I think if anything, you remind me that history keeps repeating itself. To be honest, I mean everything. Like what you said, you know, on the day that Martin Luther King. Well, I mean, so look at what we just experienced recently when George Floyd, and then you had subsequent incidents. I mean, there's no.
The incident where Milwaukee decided
right.
Milwaukee
Was it Jacob
actually
Blake?
took the day off.
Right. I think it was when Jacob Blake was shot, correct? I think that's when Kevin Smith walked off, and when they all just said stop because it's enough. Okay. I really wanted, for some reason my brain just says, people are always like, there's no such thing as white privilege. And I think that you are very naively saying that if you're white, because I know for a fact that I've gotten away with things not always related to the color of my skin. And by the way, I'm obviously not the whitest person, as we clarified. However, I'm a female, and actually it's funny, somebody recently told me I'm not brown enough. I was like, wait, what? That's why I had to say, I'm like, wait, I don't know who has the shade ruler here, but I mean, I've been told, look, if you're a person who gets told, I get asked all the time, oh, where are you from? And I say, oh, I'm from California. And they're like, oh, but where are you really from? When somebody says to you, where are you really from? You know that they are insinuating they don't think you belong from there. You are foreign. You don't look like you should be here, which to me is the stupidest thing you can say in California. Because reminder, let's talk about history. It used to be Mexico, guys. It used to be frickin' Mexico. How can you not have brown people here? But, and then I'll get spoken to in different languages. I've been spoken to in Italian, Spanish, and for people to think have you ever... I've been pulled over by a police officer for something and yelled at them, and literally this actually happened one time where I was driving on the freeway. I could see everybody acting all weird because of him, and I kind of just zoomed around because everyone was acting stupid. And I jokingly said in my head, I don't have to worry about getting pulled over, because that's kind of when you are in Southern California, and there's that joke, if you see someone driving very carefully, there must be a reason they're driving very carefully. So there is this white privilege sense of oh, well, I'm not going to have to worry about it. I'm not going to be hauled off and put in a detention center and end up in some other country tomorrow because I got pulled over by the wrong officer. I'm yelling at him, kind of telling him you are the one causing the problem. He's like, I'm really trying hard not to give you a ticket, but you just want to keep yelling at me, don't you? And I was like, and listen, I admit it. That was total. I see videos right now of people who are genuinely scared when they get pulled over by an officer. Yeah. They are afraid for their life. I don't like that people diminish that. I don't like that people dismiss that. I don't like that people try to discredit that because they are not black and because they have not walked in those shoes. With you said to me something that I felt very prevalent, or I felt very, I made sure to take notes on it in our pre-production. You said you wanted to normalize being wrong for white people on being called out, or us that are not the darker persuasion. Talk about that. What did you mean, and how are you doing that through your music?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody, just to say it off the bat, I think normalizing being wrong just in general would be a good thing for this world and humanity. But specifically as it pertains to white people, white men, women, stuff like that, more so white men, I mean, just normalize being I don't fucking know. I have no clue. I've never been pulled over as a black man or woman. So if I'm not going to sit down, shut up, say, I don't know, and listen, how am I going to learn? Right. And I think it's okay. I don't think it's, how do I say it? Normalize being wrong. Normalize saying your opinion, seeing how it's received, and then assessing it from there. If I were to sit here and say, well, white privilege doesn't exist, and some black lady schooled me on it, moving away from that, thinking I was so wrong. Holy cow, she was so right. Or how else do you move away from it? She was wrong. Right, I can't be wrong because my experience. Right,
my experience, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's the leader of a nation saying not to fear a disease because said leader received millions of dollars worth of health care. Yes, that person might not have to fear it in their experience.
Right.
But again, these people just don't want to. I really think it boils down to people don't want to be told something.
Oh, of course. I mean, we clearly know that. And there's this sense of ownership to America, too, that's been brought up. It's it's my country. I get upset. I'm not saying, and, it's funny because we talk about, I love being able to talk about politics without getting too political. Because at the end of the day, for me, it's more about humanity. I get it that politics are involved. I hate that as a nonprofit, they'll be like, you can't seem like you're influencing, which I'm okay with that. But it's like to try and disarm me from talking about politics when it is very vital and it affects, like you said, it affects the policies. Did you vote yet? I just voted. We are, voting on measures and things that affect our community. So why can't we be political? Because if certain programs, if the education sector doesn't get the funding that they need, then nonprofits have to step in and try and supplement and give kids a shot at things, or, and be there for the underserved community. Because like you said, COVID is definitely, like, over the break, I worked with an organization that I, talk to women who are in homeless situations. They're in temporary housing with their children. They've gone through domestic violence. They're refugees. They're women, they're women who are scared and trying to figure out life for themselves here in our world, which is very hard. And overall, I just think that so many people forget how many communities are struggling just because you're not. My experience is that I don't, I can go into a job and I may get it. My experience has not been to be told things like, oh, you sound very smart for a Black person, or you speak very well for a Black person. Like, there's this thing that I don't like that gets done. And then I look at what I was raised with. Talking more about you got this East Coast flavor, and now you're here on the West Coast. Want to take a quick second really quick to thank our sponsors. Once again, House of Kings Card Club in El Paso, Texas. Please text KINGS to 915-603-3000 to register to receive promos and event notifications. They're constantly holding charity events. I mean, it's a really great place. Check them out. And thank you so much to you guys. That young lad. We need to go back to your music, because when I was listening to it, I loved how I got a little Tribe Called Quest vibe from it. Like, there you go. I don't want to miss the opportunity to really talk about what influences you and who's influenced you and what really made you say, you know what, I'm going to go out and be an artist. And I am an artist, first of all, and I'm going to put out my music. And another thing, I love how I have to give you mad props for this. Your photo, your artwork where you're like in the beat up Honda, not trying. I shouldn't say beat up. I should say
it's supposed to be. It is supposed to be
exactly.
beat up.
Well, that's what you get. You get this like in the mud type of feeling, which I can appreciate because usually it's so the opposite. Everyone wants to put on the floss. Everyone wants to put up the front. And
with the wrist in the
and I mean I'm going to tell you something. I can appreciate authenticity. No matter what flavor it comes in, I appreciate authenticity. So tell us, how did a white guy from Jersey end up here?
Man. So let's see, how do I start? So I'll start, I guess, with some of my biggest influences and then kind of tell the story of what got me in. So just off the bat, like you said, the first thing that got me into rap was Jedi Mind Tricks, like an underground North Philly band or rap group. And then from there, I moved to Tribe Called Quest. Tribe, which I'm obviously repping the shirt right now. It's the shirt I'm wearing on my album cover very intentionally. There's a very intentional reason behind that. And Tribe was really the thing that made me realize, oh, shit, I want to work in music in some way, shape, or form. Like, this is my passion. This is what I love. Even from when I was a kid, I had an MP3 player from a young age where I was trying to jam as many songs onto a 158 megabyte, $100 chip, at the time, to put as many songs on it as I can, whether it was like punk rock or this and that. It was funny. I didn't even listen to rap until I was 12 or 13. So some of my biggest influences, Tribe, Jedi Mind Tricks, Nas, Big L, Kanye, Lupe, artists like that are some of my biggest inspirations. Childish Gambino, where I draw a lot of inspiration from. Mm-hmm. Now, I love the question of, what kind of kicked me in the ass to be like, all right, like, do you want to be a rap? Like, do this. I've been writing since I was 17 or 16. I started writing more in college, like towards my senior year. And I always joked around about making a mixtape or making an album. And I'd moved to Los Angeles. I was doing graphic design, doing this and that. One day I'm in a Ralph's parking lot and I'm rapping a song, you know, I'm freestyling in my head. Okay, cool, whatever. Oh, and I rhyme this thing, you know, making a joke. I can get a little PG-13 here, right? That's
Yeah,
allowed.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So I make a rhyme as I'm freestyling about saying, you know, these bars are as hot as asphalt, and I may have let myself loose a little quick, and it's this girl's asphalt, right? So it's her ass's fault, and I was rhyming that with asphalt, and I was like, yo, that's cool. I should write that. I kind of forgot about the line. 2 years pass, a year and a half passes. I'm listening to a Little Dicky, and I can tell you it right now, Little Dicky, Tim Westwood TV, Freestyle. And a lot of people compare me to Little Dicky. I can definitely see why. I can tell you his music hasn't had that much of an influence on me. But this freestyle is the most important music moment in my life because I'm listening to this Tim Westwood freestyle. He's rapping over a Drake beat. He's killing it. And I'm like, oh, this is hot. He gets to the end of the song. He says a lyric like shorty something, this or asphalt. Like he basically used a similar rhyme to what I had done. I'm not saying he stole it. But in that moment, I paused it and I was like, holy shit.
They say if you don't put it out, like someone else will. They say if someone put it out.
I can write just like these guys. Even if I can't do it myself, I know that on a writing level, and I didn't even write that, I freestyled it. And it was a throwaway.
Right.
And it was like, holy shit, I am playing myself. Like literally, I envisioned myself, and then I had a vision of me being old. And I rap about this in my song OCT. I envision myself as like a 50-year-old saying, you know, rap today sucks. I was so much better. Well, where's your music? And that's when it just kind of bam, bam hit me. It's like, if I don't do this now, shut up about it.
Right.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I get a lot of people who, you know, when they know I write books and they're like, oh, well, you know, what's your biggest piece of advice to, you know, I'm thinking about writing a book. I'm like, okay, well, we'll write it. Let's start with that, babe. Like, let's get that. And I'll be there to buy a copy when you release it and cheer you on. But like, got to write it first. You know, I one time had a lit agent say, I can't sell what's in your head. You're going to have to write it out for me, you know? So that was, you know, it's true. And I applaud anyone who actually like steps out there and does it. Like, so I have to ask the candid kind of unsugarcoated question. Like, yeah, I mean, I know you've already shared you don't mind the challenge, but still, like, how is it for you? I mean, do you ever get intimidated? I mean, for the other artist out there who's like, yeah, you know, I've been playing with this idea. Like, what are the things you had to overcome for yourself?
Fear, anxiety, stress, being able to let go. I'll never forget the first time I dropped a song and I hit the button to release it to the public. But that's also what fueled me, was realizing I'm anxious, I'm scared because it's a good thing for me. If I'm afraid of it, if I am fearful, it's probably for good cause.
Right.
Because it's going to be a big deal or it's going to be a big thing. So for me, it was really, it helped so much to just let go of things in this life. Just let it go. So that feeling, and it happens every time I submit a song or every time, you know, a new song comes out, I get that feeling back of, like that release.
Mm-hmm.
But it's scary. You have to learn. And look, I can't lie and say I was as confident as I am right this moment as I was when I first clicked release on a remix on SoundCloud.
Right.
But it was the process that got me. Because I would say right now, like, do I ever get intimidated? I think I used to think artists were arrogant if they would talk like this, but not that heavily. Like, I'll get intimidated by an in the moment thing where it's like, okay, I wrote this, I'm trying to record it, shit, my voice isn't right now. But that's not intimidated. It's more like walk away and come back. I truly don't anymore. And it really, so many different things. The reception to the music, positive or negative, empowered me to feel more confident through it.
Right.
But it was really just a building block. The more I wrote, the more I released, until one day I remember the song that I said, okay, never question yourself again. It was this song Meditate Remix, which is an Earth Gang remix. And I wrote it, recorded it, put it out. And I'm sitting there like, why would I ever question if I could write? So to be honest, at this point now, 3 years later in this journey, I'm basically at a point where it's like, I don't even confidence isn't even something I think about. It's just like, if I write it, I write it. If I don't, I don't. I just put it to microphone, I guess. I don't know if I answered your question. I just kind of jumped around.
No, you did because no, absolutely. And really, the freestyle part, I don't think people understand. Like, okay, I'm an 80s kid. I grew up with Run DMC, and like there was two things that you were doing after school, you had a piece of cardboard and you were spinning on your head practicing, or you were freestyling, you were capping on people, which, by the way, I know that there's a new version of cap now because I have teenagers, but my original version is a bit different. And obviously capping is kind of one of those fundamental things to rapping and lyrics. And it's funny because when I had EmpowerCon, I was adamant that we had to have spoken word the next time we get to have it. I even talked to you. I was like, listen, come do an empowerment rap, like, because we want people to take, because we want to be creative artists, and like Unsugarcoated media is all about socially conscious media. So, there's a way to have this creative experience and then empower others. And you see a lot more of that now. You see rappers saying, all right, cool, we've had enough of this, that, and the other. Let's maybe bring some things a bit more uplifting, a bit more empowering, and a bit more of a solution for our society, and more positive mindset, encourages positive mindset, personal development, Robert Kiyosaki, all these things that, people who know what personal development and emotional intelligence are, they don't understand. And here's the thing that I go to. Freestyle is something that is like, look, y'all saw how I messed up on my intro, and I love Lin-Manuel Miranda and where he started, and like I think that's why I'm so obsessed with Hamilton, by the way, because
I've seen it. It's great.
It just is a whole different take. And I know people are so sick of me talking about Hamilton, but FYI, our team is pitching Lin-Manuel Miranda to come on the show just because he's an advocate and like all of that. And again, as you know, like, okay, exactly what he was talking about, like, I'm not throwing away my shot, and this is what I want to clarify. The reason why I love Hamilton so much is because when we go into the story of Alexander Hamilton, the orphan, the guy who's struggling to be heard, he's smart, he knows it, and he benefited our country so much, but he wasn't somebody you can put in a box. He wasn't American, or like at that time he wasn't considered an immigrant, and so. Going to what you're doing, and have you seen the other documentary where they really go into his background of freestyle?
No, I have not.
You haven't? I think you should check it out because it really goes. You see the younger Lin-Manuel, and like he did a performance. Their group did a performance in Edinburgh, and they got booed, or they're not. Wait, okay, take that back. I don't know. I can't remember actually if they got booed, but I know that the review on it was like, please, somebody pull them off the stage. And it was like just that first. Anyways, the journey of freestyle, and being able to quickly articulate these thoughts and put them together and create a rhyme. Not something I can do very easily. And when you do it, I just crack up. I mean, I know I told you, I was like, come on and do a little empowerment rap for us. Give us what you got, because, it's not always, I know when I've been put on the spot and people are like, read a portion of your book, and I get all shy, but at the same token, like, you got to get it out there. Your art is amazing. Your art is who you are. You represent something, and I like that you're a person who's about breaking stereotypes,
Yeah, that's what it's all about, right? I don't want to be some cookie cutter rapper talking about gold watches and misogynistic shit, right? I think we've had enough of that in music in our society. I think we can build more.
Right. Okay, but on something too, by the way, a little bit of education and knowledge and power and stereotyping. I can't forget to bring this up really quick before we end this.
Yeah.
So two things are super heavy right now: politics and cannabis, my friend. Now, I rarely get the opportunity to talk about cannabis, but you talk about, at first when I saw flowers, I thought you meant the other flowers. And then it wasn't until I heard the song that I was like, oh, he's singing about those flowers. Oh, okay. Not flower.
Not singular. Yeah, not.
Cannabis advocate right here. Definitely somebody who, it's not for everyone. but for certain people. And I think that when it comes to that, I mean, again, you are a person, you are an artist who is, I think you empower a lot of people. First of all, you do have a day job, and yet you're still pursuing your dream. I've always told people there's nothing wrong with that. Many, many people have done that. It's nothing, bills do not get paid with good looks and smiles, not all the time, at least for the rest, for most of us.
I'm still waiting on that. Yeah, no, I haven't gotten the memo either.
Have you had a landlady yet? I'm sorry.
I wish. No, I'm waiting. That's really, when I move, that's what I'm looking for next. But
naughty. But okay, but going back to the conversation about, okay, I'm just now having this mental image, everybody, of freaking a landlady being like, so.
Is Lawrence here?
Lawrence,
like, he told me he was afraid of you, ma'am. Like, no.
Kingpin is in my head. That's all I could say. Okay, so staying on track really quick, cannabis. Look, moms, people have this perception if you use cannabis, and I know people say weed, and I'm like, but I am one of those people. I want to steer people in a vernacular manner that it really gives people an understanding that it's not this nasty, evil thing that's going to ruin your life, and it's a gateway to to this, that, or the other. For people, I think that if you end up with a drug problem, cannabis was probably not the thing that started it. Probably another root issue is really your problem. But, I know that some people are very particular about that. That's just my personal experience so far in life, and my opinion, going off of my experience, of course. But also some knowledge and that I've acquired from going out and studying and getting the information. And I've gone to Amsterdam. I've gone to countries where it's legal, Toronto, and I've not seen a crumbling, horrific, scary, don't go outside your house society. I don't. And I think that when, like, as a mom, I'm part of a demographic where it's very frowned upon and you're perceived as not as responsible. And look, man, we're here to break these stereotypes. We're here to let people know that's not the case. Like, there's doctors, there's lawyers, there are professionals, people who use cannabis. So stop with the judgment. For you, I feel like you kind of have that white conservative-ish kind of, family background. How was it for you to be like, yeah, I'm going to bust out and let people know this is part of me and who I am?
Yeah, I mean, on the weed thing, I think people just need to be consistent. If you're going to call marijuana a gateway drug, then call it a gateway drug and also state why it is, because of the laws that put it into the hands of other people selling drugs. Like, if marijuana is a gateway drug, it's clearly not. The only thing it's a gateway to is your fridge and maybe a bigger belly. The only reason it is,
hey, maybe some good sex too. Let's just don't forget that part.
Sex, unbelievable sex, and it's because of the. I'm not going to say the specific administration that labeled it as a class 1 drug and put it in the same context as heroin.
Sure.
Right? Like, I just think that people want to say half the truth. They want to say, oh, it's a gateway drug. Okay, so say why you think that. The reality, if you're educated, is because, yes, Ronald Reagan, the war on drugs, all this shit that throws it, and so many things before Ronald Reagan, let's not only pin it on him, that put it into the hands of people who are dealing other drugs because you're treating it the same way.
Right.
As a marijuana advocate, I don't think I've lied to my family about smoking weed for... they've definitely known I was stoned at Thanksgivings and things like that. But in terms of speaking up, it was only a few months before my album came out, my family started as a whole listening to my music. Mm-hmm. So it was very interesting for them to hear, like my one uncle told me Land of the Lost, quote, slaps. And I was like, that's so crazy because you're like definitely a conservative Republican who might be voting for Trump again. And I say, fuck people like you in the end of the song. But okay, I appreciate it.
Well, at least he likes it.
Yeah, at least it slaps. But for sure, look, there is another member of my family, and you remember when we spoke that one time, I think I told you about a certain text message I had received.
Right.
I actually responded kind of rejecting it, just not getting gaslit and being like, great, how are you? Had a great meeting last night. Didn't hear anything for 2 weeks, and then was approached with asking about my sanity because I was tweeting about not concentrating on the president's COVID, instead concentrating on what he said on a national stage, because whether he's sick or not, what he said still holds water.
Sure.
So it is interesting. Like, there are for sure, me being this vocal, and I've actually, again, I'm not like trying to pat myself on the back. I've always been super vocal about this. I've always been an emotional person. And because of that, it's been easy for me to be gaslit.
Right.
So I've actually realized I've been talking about this shit since like 2009. And I've been getting gaslit about it since fucking God knows when. So it's just funny to see how some people receive it. You know, a lot of my takes, whether it's on marijuana or these political things. But for the most part, weed is received very well. My aunt, who does yoga now, uses CBD. She's all about it. She wants me to ship her some. I'm like, that's illegal? And
well,
then,
if it's CBD, it's not, but...
Okay, true. But then I have friends, like a friend of mine who hates weed, but it's like, hey, for you, girl, CBD is great. You hike a lot, recovery. And she's like, oh, I already have a CBD pen.
Right.
I love it.
Right.
It's like, great.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, my mother-in-law, who is, you know, well, because she has health issues, and she started, I'm not ashamed. It's so funny. My husband was like, yeah, you know, I can't believe you just proposed my mom should get cannabis to help her with her, you know, health issues. I'm like,
2020.
Why not? I did. I mean, for anyone who doesn't know, I was 99 pounds, couldn't eat more than a handful of food. And somebody said, hey, you know what you really need? Some freaking weed. And I was like, okay. Because I was so sick. Oh, but in that time, I'd been offered it plenty of times in my life. This would happen when I was 32. Believe me, I'm from Napa. Okay, I grew up with kids from Eureka. Like, this is like, you know, Ukiah. Anybody know the Northern California? You know what? Napa has a lot of weed going around. And I just, you know, but when that moment, I was like, okay, I was trying Eastern holistic everything. Why not? And I ate so well that night for the first time in months. And I'd been just freshly discharged from the hospital. It was life changing for me. So anyways, I give you credit for like really just being who you are. Please, thank you. Thank you for having this conversation. Even though I know we touched on this stuff and we talked about your music, but I really do appreciate you coming on and having the conversation with me. And hopefully too many people won't be upset with us. But hopefully we'll also have another time to continue on. In the meantime, where can people, you know, go to check out your music? You do live concerts on Twitch. Please give everyone your info.
Yeah, so all the handles. So actually, funny enough, this Friday I'm dropping my next single. It's only been 6 weeks since the album came out. So this Friday, what is that? The 16th of October. Oh my God, it's October. We got Blind Optimist coming out. It's the new single. So again, my name is That Young Lad. You could call me Till for short. ThatYoungLad.com. Young is spelled Y-U-N-G. Whether you spell it properly or improperly, we have a redirect. So if you spell young the right or incorrect way, it doesn't really matter. That Young Lad on Instagram, Twitter, across all platforms, just That Young Lad, ThatYounglad. And then, yeah, I do Twitch concerts every Saturday night at 8 p.m. Pacific. I'm usually found streaming about 5 days a week outside of that, usually Monday through Friday, sometime around 10 or 11 a.m. Pacific time. And we have fun over there. So yeah, that's where y'all can find me.
You do. I know. I know we didn't get you to do some, but next time for sure.
I could prepare. Hey, yeah, you know, I'd always love to be a guest again, and until the next time.
For sure. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and thank you, That Young Lad. You know what, you guys, it's been great. We'll be back next week with another empowering, interesting conversation. Hopefully leaves you wanting more. In the meantime, thank you so much for letting us be unsugarcoated. Take care. Bye-bye.
It's so strange, I'm not holding my tongue. Radio making me feel so numb. Stolen beats, they're on repeat. But come on, don't we all wanna be someone? Yeah, it's killing me, but I just wanna be a millionaire.
What are you still doing here? Come back next week. Bye.